Okay, welcome to our first Cabot meeting recording. We ran this meeting on December 7th. The topic was the Braille Note Touch. I'm Mike Fish, and want to provide you a summary of the meeting we had. We, like I said, on December 7th, Braille Note Touch was our topic. We had some great participation and some great questions, but we're going to make this shorter than the meeting, so we're going to have a summary here. I've got Greg Chittum, who is our Greg, coordinator of outreach.
That's right.
At the Rehab Center, and I'm the lead access technology here at the Virginia Rehab Center. And today we're going to talk about the Braille Note Touch, which is a Google's first certified Braille tablet. So what that means is it's both a tablet and a Braille Note. Got a Braille display, has a tablet, and a Braille keyboard on top. So if you're familiar with the Braille Note Apex line, the Braille Note Apex device, it's somewhat similar in the software it has, like Keyword and Keymail, but this is more than that. It has we'll go through the buttons. It has the thumb keys that you would normally find on a Braille Note. We have 4 thumb keys. We also have 3 other buttons in the front as well that we'll talk about in just a minute, what those buttons do. On the right side of the unit, we have some headphone jacks. We also have a button that's used primarily for play and pause. It's called the action button. And on the other side, we have where the power cord operates, and an oval power switch for locking and unlocking and powering down the unit, and volume up and volume down. And on the back you have a USB port and an SD card so that you can put files on it as well. We did get the question, and I'll reiterate it from the live Cabot, which was, what age should I start working with a student? Should I start working with the student on a Braille, Braille display?
Notification.
It talks a lot.
Verify
So,
your
hold
phone
on a second.
number. Notification.
Give me
Account
1
update.
second. That's the problem with it being a tablet, always connected to the internet.
Top. Contacts. Key list.
Always connected to the internet. You often get a lot of notifications. You can turn those notifications off as you need to, but I have not done that. So it's connected to Wi-Fi and giving me a bunch of notifications. So I turn the speech off right now. But the question was asked at Cabot was, at what age should I start working with a student on one of these devices? The earlier the better, because what the Braille Note Touch can do is you can use it to do basic reading. So anything that a teacher may have in electronic format, a Word document, a PDF, can be opened up on the Braille Note Touch, and that student can start reading. They also can use it to take notes. They can use the keyboard up here to type on in a document, and that will allow them to take notes automatically in a Word document. A difference between this and the Apex model is that on the Apex, everything was saved as a Keysoft file. They don't do that anymore for the Braille Note Touch. Everything is saved as a Word document. So the transfer is easy right to a computer or from a computer to the Braille Note Touch. Before I go into more of the features, the question was also asked about embossers. The Braille Note Touch works best with a Juliet 120 or a Romeo 60. Those are the new embossers from Humanware, which is the company that makes both the Romeo and Juliet line of embossers and also the Braille Note Touch. And you can emboss and print via both USB connection or over Wi-Fi. So I'm going to show you with the speech turned on now how I can navigate through just by using the thumb keys here.
Speech on. Email. Keymail.
And you hear it say things like email, Keymail. That's Keysoft's version of email.
Internet. Keyweb.
And again, you've got internet and key web.
Word processor, keyword.
Word processor, which is probably going to be used the most, it's called keyword. But the other cool thing about this being a Google tablet is you also have access to apps to install on here, such as Google Docs, Google Sheets. You know, Google Docs is like a word processing, Google Sheets is like an Excel, Google Slides. That's the advantage of a device that is a tablet, an Android tablet. So let me show that piece really quickly. I'm going to pop it out of the case. Greg, if you can get a visual of this. It comes completely out of the case, and it's just a tablet in your hand. You can hold it, and you'll notice that the keyboard, that's the Braille style keyboard, is no longer part of this. I can actually type and swipe as if I was using the tablet all by itself. So right now I'm going to turn it to touch Braille off so that I can swipe now. Which means I need to turn the speech on. So hold on a second. Pop it back in the case here.
Speech on. Touch Braille on. Touch Braille off.
And I use the previous and next, or the two outer thumb keys to turn off touch Braille. So then all I have to do is
wait button. OK button. Bottom. Main menu. OK button. Top. Main menu. Email. Key internet. Key web. Word
I can
processor.
just swipe across.
Keyword.
And it moves from item to item.
Internet. Key web. Email. Keymail.
Okay. Another thing I want to show you about it is the ability to use touch Braille, which means I can type on the touch screen.
Touch Braille on. Internet. Word processor. Keyword menu. Create.
If you're seeing that, Greg. You're hearing it vibrate because it doesn't like what I'm doing to the display right now. I'm going to put all 10 of my fingers on the screen, and it's going to calibrate to where my finger position is so that I can then type.
Loading. Please wait 3 period. Edit box. End of document.
I'm now in a document. I'm going to type.
That's dots 1, 4, 5, 6. This. I. Dot 3.
You hear it vibrating? That means I'm not calibrated.
Dot 3 space deleted. I. Space deleted. I deleted. I. S. Is. A. T. Dots 3, 4. Dots 1, 2. 8. Dots 2. T. O. Y. P. O. N. Dots 2. T. Dots 1. S. R. E. N. Dots 2. 5. 6. Screen.
So I typed there, and it comes down in Braille on the display. It says this is a test of how to type on the touch screen. And that's exactly what I wrote. And it does show visually up here for the teachers to see, or sighted folks to see. But it's not as loud as if I'm typing that whole sentence on the Braille style keyboard, which that would sound more like this.
T. Dots 2, 3, 4, 6.
Let's see, it said
Notification. Updating Google Docs.
And like I said, that comes and happens often because the Wi-Fi is connected. But if you noticed, I was actually typing with the keyboard, not even fully on the display itself. So you can
Google Docs.
You can do that. But I want to show you that when I type, it doesn't matter. I can calibrate down here, lower on the screen, or if I want to reach higher up. As long as I lay all 10 fingers down, it doesn't matter where I touch the screen, as long as all 10 fingers touch the screen. And it calibrates to where my finger positioning is. I'm going to close out this document. And I want to talk about another feature of the Braille Note Touch, which is the Key Math. Key Math is a newer feature that they brought in where you can use both Nemeth math code or UEB math code to type in your math equations, and then you can either print them or emboss them to see them in hard copy. The newest feature they brought on is a graphing calculator feature, where you can build a graph right on the display itself, or if you have a Romeo 60 or a Juliet 120, you can connect via USB only and emboss your graph that you've put the equations in for. That's not something we're going to cover today because that would take a whole session on itself, how to use the math features and all that, but I want you to know that it is available. Another thing I want you to know is available is the help feature, okay? Anywhere you are on a Braille Note Touch, you can press space with H, and that will give you help, general help.
Keyword help. The focused item is a tick box.
So it said the focus item is an edit box. I'm going to use space with dot 4 to move forward.
Edit mode is active.
The edit mode is now active.
To do the action new line, enter.
So in order to make a new line, I'll press enter.
To start and stop selection, enter with S.
And you see that these are very generalized commands.
Edit
I'm in
box.
Word, so I might want to do something more specific than that. So what I'm going to do is press space with M to open a context menu.
Context menu. File functions.
So this is more specific help, like the file function.
Editing functions.
There's editing functions.
Format functions.
Format functions.
Button.
And those are your choices. And so I could go by pressing enter on any of these, go into the menu and get more information about them. Okay? The other really neat thing is this device has a built-in, on the SD card, it has a DAISY tutorial. It's about a 12-hour long tutorial that talks about different pieces. It breaks it down section by section of using the Braille Note Touch. And it has little training exercises in there as well. So someone asked on the live meeting, if I didn't know much about this device, how could I learn about it? If I want my students to use it. Well, there's always manuals at humanware.com. There's a resources page, which you'll get attached, with this audio link or in a separate email. You can always reach out to me. Or you can, if you have a device, it should come with this DAISY tutorial, getting to know the Braille Note Touch. And it's created by a company called Mystic Access. And I'll actually play you a quick sample. And all I'm going to do to play that sample is go from the main menu.
Main menu. Contacts.
I can use first letter navigation here. So I'm going to use V for Victor Reader.
Victor Reader.
Press enter.
Braille Note Touch audio tutorial created by Mystic Access.
And so that's the little section we're on. I'm going to hit play, which is the side button on the right.
Welcome to Mystic Access, where the
Here's the beginning of their tutorial. And I'll jump to the first section so you can kind of hear.
Welcome to the Humanware Braille Note Touch audio tutorial created by Mystic Access. Thanks for joining me. First, please note that the tutorial is in DAISY format. Therefore, any device that you have which is capable of playing DAISY books can be utilized to play this tutorial. There are 3 parts in this tutorial, and you may move between parts at level 1. The sections within these parts are navigable at level 2, and subsections can be moved through at level 3. The DAISY format allows you to navigate very easily to the specific information that is relevant to you and your situation at any given moment, if for whatever reason.
So what I like about that is you can navigate to whatever you need to learn about at the time. You don't have to listen to a whole tutorial to find out, oh, I only need to know how to use the word processor. You can do that just by moving through this tutorial. Or if you have another DAISY player like a Victor Stream or something like that, then you can put it on that device, listen to it while using this, the Braille Note Touch. I recommend doing that. I recommend putting it on a different device, whether that's an NLS library player or a Victor Stream or something that can play Daisy books, so that you can actually do what they are talking about at the same time. Greg, do we have any other questions that came from the meeting? Okay. So if you have any other questions about the Braille Note Touch or want to know more about it, or if you want to actually come see it, I would encourage you to either reach out to Greg or myself. My email is michael.fish, that's F-I-S-H, at dbvi.virginia, spelled that out, .gov. It's also be found on the contact page, on the resource page that will be sent with this link. And you can always contact Greg or myself, and my number is 804-371-3327 with any questions on the Braille Note Touch, any Cabot ideas that you may have, or if you want to come see some of the technology we have here at the Rehab Center. I want to thank you for tuning in for this first edition of Cabot, and encourage you to keep an eye on your emails to find out when the next one will be in January. Thank you.